Great. So yeah, just to say that we've got Sadhata, he's on solitary in the cabin, which is quite nice actually, having him around, even though I tried to engage. He came into the house today and he said, I'm not going to get into conversation, which is understandable. So yeah, welcome to this session. So what I wanted to look at this evening, because yeah, it's partly for my benefit, but there's going to be an element of slowing down a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate just to be on this retreat. I'm also really aware here, perhaps more than usually, about just the change of season. You know, I'm sure all of us are feeling it one way or another. So there's a change of the time. And there's this phenomenon which I remember talking about actually when I was teaching yoga in Newcastle called spring tiredness. So you may be having that going on. So it's like this kind of your body's recalibrating to the you know, the change of season basically. So anyway, maybe it's something to be aware of. Also, I've got into planting things in this little garden, vegetable garden, and my neighbor was saying, oh no, you've got to plant potatoes when it's a waning moon. So we did that on Monday. I mean, let's see if it helps, you know. So yeah, so it's a waning moon and it's the equinox, and that's just outside conditions. So yeah, I mean, we're going to start off lying down. So I'm going to switch cameras. Hopefully this works. Yeah, great. Okay. Get out of the way. So if there's any problem with sound, do let me know. So I'd like us to set ourselves up with a bolster going across the mat. This will be a really familiar pose, and some support for the head. Okay. And if you want to use a strap, that's fine. I know you've done this. Well, I think we use this pose quite a bit. So it's the Supta Baddha Konasana, but with the belt, you make a loop. And it's a big loop. It's quite useful to have, as it were, the tail of the loop coming towards you. So you put it around the back of the body, around the hip, the pelvic crest. And you slip under the feet with the tail coming towards you. And we're going to open the thoracic area, but you can also work a bit more intensely the pelvis by drawing the strap in. And let's see how that goes. So we'll set ourselves up in our own way into that. So I'm going to make this really comfortable actually. So you can take the head, depending on your flexibility, you can take your head more back or less back. And the arms, ideally, they're going out to the sides above the bolster. So I guess we're at I don't know, 8 or 9 thoracic vertebrae around there. It's a fairly low down. And let's set ourselves up. If you can't rest the arms up to the side, I'm just going to support them behind the head. So we're going to open with a sequence which is going to really work down into the pelvis. So my experience with this is it can be very grounding. So like grounding the energy, centering and calming. So I'm going to move into these aspects of awareness and mindfulness that we're drawing on so strongly, emphasizing so strongly. First of all, I'd just like you to ask yourself how you are. So have a moment to ask yourself how you are. And we're going to listen in, we're going to tune in, practice receptivity, practice letting go into the moment, and having a general sense of your body, the body energy, your mood. So maybe you're feeling quite relaxed, quite chilled out. Maybe you're feeling more agitated. Maybe you're feeling cheerful. Maybe you're feeling more sad, whatever is happening. Recognizing what's happening. Remembering that, one of the powerful, in a positive sense, Buddhism talks about the balas. Balas, I think, if I'm right. The balas are the powers. So powers in a creative or love-based approach to life. So it gives you as a sense of power and fortitude and ability to be creative. So one of the powers is recognizing how you are. So that includes being able to recognize weakness, vulnerability, because at least then you know where you're coming from. So we could think of mindfulness as a power, as a bala. And then coming into your body, so being aware of any specific sensations connected with this pose. So it's fine to make adjustments when you're actually in the pose. So I'm bringing the head a little bit lower now. And having a general overall sense of the body in Supta, Varakonasana. I'm just going to check that Ruth is not in the waiting room. Okay, nice. So we're checking in on the mood, the third aspect of awareness that we're looking at, emphasizing the body, both in general terms and specific terms. And then being aware of this quality that we call nitya, change, impermanence. You could also say transformation. So being aware that your experience is one of a dynamic process. That can be enough just to see that it's a process unfolding, not fixed. And finally, for the last minute or two, I'd like to tune in with the breath. Feeling the breath in the body. You can lift the breath a little bit up higher into the thoracic area, which can intensify the experience. So I wouldn't suggest you really force that, but it's like you're almost like inviting the inhale to move higher up into the body. And what you'll notice is it intensifies the stretch, basically the extension through the thoracic spine. With each exhale, there's a process of letting go. With each inhale, gently lifting the breath up. into the thoracic area, particularly feeling like the sides of the thoracic. Remembering that the breath doesn't exactly, it's not as though the chest puffs forwards, it also broadens. So being aware of the side ribs, which is one reason for doing lateral extensions to help open that area. Okay, and then from there, so what I wouldn't do is sit up here. So what I want you to do is gently to slide down, keeping the head fairly low, to a point where you can then push the bolster out to one side and remove the belt and come into semi-supine for a moment. Okay. Making that transition quite gently. And then from there, we're going to roll to one side. And so we're going to come to sitting. So again, we're going to work into the pelvic area. I feel that these two postures really complement each other well. I mean, we're now working in a slightly different way. So we're going to bring the bolster in front of us. And it really depends on your flexibility. So you might want to bring the floor up to meet the body. So we're extending both legs out into what's called Upavista Konasana, with the idea that we open both legs evenly. So that if you look down, more or less the femur is equally separated from the center line, from the medial line. Okay. And the feet, I like to have the feet slightly active. Okay, so the feet pointing straight up. I'm then going to extend up through the body before I release forward. So I'm trying to roll the pelvis forwards, roll forwards to the front edge of the sitting bones. And then if I'm lucky, I've got enough gear to support the head. Okay, so I've got plenty of gear here. You can, if you've not got loads of flexibility, you can use a chair as well in front of you. Could add that into the chair practice. So releasing the forehead if you can, or letting it rest, should I say, onto the surface. And the arms, you can either rest them onto the floor, or if you prefer, rest them. I quite like to rest the hands onto the shins. Or you may even reach for the feet. But try to see if you can then, once you're set up, see if you can release around the muscles around the base of the neck, the shoulders. And again, we're feeling this sort of tensile pressure on the inner legs in the same way that we were feeling perhaps in Supta Baddha Konasana. But now we've got this effect of our own body weight drawing down towards the floor, creating sensations, tensile sensations, stretch. So again, connecting in with your breath. Connecting in with the sensations. So with these, this is, I think, the 10th session that we've done now. And obviously we're emphasizing these 5 aspects, but what we want to be doing or aiming to do is to integrate them into your practice. So it's like the sensations, specific sensations, the overall body experience, emotional awareness, change, and the breath. And then to start working more intuitively from your own side, as it were. So you're following your own interests, letting your attention rest where the attention is being drawn to. It's almost like, you could say, getting into a kind of dialogue where you're listening to your experience, where you become the listener and paying attention to what is being said.
in your own body. So it's going to be sensations of pleasure, sensations of pain or discomfort. It's going to be a whole range of emotional experience going on. The breath itself is going to be shifting and changing. And change is there inherently. So as I was saying, it could be helpful to, well, personally, I quite like to have an awareness of the feet in the perpendicular. So I'm just very lightly engaging the legs.
And then following an in-breath, reintegrate your spine to the vertical. Gosh, I feel taller there. So what we're doing in that pose is we're lengthening the whole chain of muscles down the back of the body all the way down into the soles of the feet. Okay, again, putting your props to one side. And this sequence we're half done. So this is a yin style sequence again, based around the swan. So allow you to come into all fours. I've got a bolster here. These three poses go together really well, I think. And I want you to come up into a light dog shape. And then I'm going to bring my left leg, but you could quite easily bring your right leg forwards. It's really up to you. I'm just doing that so you can see, or more or less you can see where it goes. And then I'm going to rest the belly and the forehead, or I can turn the head to one side into the bolster. So this is called sleeping swan. One little detail is to wing the elbows out. So there's definitely a sense of collapsing down into the bolster. And then you can be aware now of the breath against the bolster or the floor. You can be aware of the breath moving down to the belly. Sense of spreading in the back of the body, allowing that space between the shoulder blades to open up. Hence, it's good to take the elbows out to the side. And we're remembering here, or what we can observe, the main focus perhaps with this pose is the groin, hip area on the folded leg side. Connecting with your own breath and really following the breath. This is an instruction I found really helpful from one of my teachers, of following the in-breath all the way to the end of the in-breath and allowing it to come in, turn around, and then following the out-breath all the way to the end of the out-breath, allowing it to complete its cycle. So there's a sense of kind of resting, as it were, into the physiology of your own body. So the body breathes, it has to breathe, and we rest into that. So you do need to play the forehead position. Actually, for me, is not that comfortable for very long. So you want to find a position which is comfortable for the head if you're going to stay longer in this pose. The side of the head is probably the best position. And then from here, we're going to bring the hands back. So it's like we're preparing to prop ourselves up, and we prop ourselves up onto the arms. I like to come a little bit higher and in fact prop up onto the fingertips. And I'm lifting the pelvis a little bit here. So I'm not because obviously if you sink the pelvis down, you deepen the extension through the spine, particularly that lower section of the spine. So if you want to be gentle with your lower spine, be gentle with that connection, spine to pelvis. So hence I'm going to lift my pelvis a little bit. So I'm not being too aggressive with that area. Breathing. So this deepens the stretch through the straight leg side, I would say, as it were the hip flexor. So it's from the knee through the front of the hip, through the front of the body. So one of the important muscles, hip flexors, is the psoas. So somehow I can imagine that's being worked in this pose. Okay, so from there, now we're going to drop down onto the folded leg buttock. Yeah, so you're sort of coming off balance. I'm going to then move that hand forwards and then look back. This is sometimes called the goddess pose. So we bend up the back leg, depends on your flexibility, and you may be able to hook your foot into the elbow with an emphasis on stretching or working that front thigh there. So I can carry on looking back. So it's this strange pose, which is a mixture of a twist, a lateral extension, as well as some hip work. In some ways, it's quite complex pose. Breathing there. So allowing your weight to, as it were, sink into the pose, using the forward hand as a prop. There's minimal amount of effort here. Even an element of twist in the pose, and then we release this leg, back leg, and swing round, come through to a light dog pose, whatever's helpful to stretch out the legs. You could even just do one leg at a time. Okay. And from there, moving to the opposite side. So first pose is the sleeping swan. So this is the one that we're going to maintain longest. Find a comfortable head position. I can't put my head on the side. It just knocks the earphones out. It's not helpful. Remembering to wing the elbows. Feeling the breath against your support, possibly. So taking advantage of that as an anchor point for your attention. So one other point here, actually, sometimes, so there is this thing about completely surrendering to the pose, which is the way I've just described for you to get into it, but it might be worth exploring. So it's slightly more stimulated, where you actually do prop yourself up on your forearms. So this business of yin and yang, so we could say yin is more surrendering, yang is more active. It's not black and white, right? So you can have, there's obviously a spectrum of work there. So a way I quite like to practice is sometimes if I want to stay a little bit more open and a bit more stimulated in the upper body is to prop up on the forearms, and I'm then slightly, even can be a sense of actively lengthening through the front of the body, right? That feels quite different to dropping the head. Yeah. Oh gosh. Gosh. Okay, yeah. I'm there, I am here. Yeah. Incoming call. Definitely a disadvantage to work out how to block that. Okay, from there, I want you to prop up now onto your fingertips, noticing any difference between the two sides. Okay, between the right and left side. So a sense of lifting up. This, again, this pose can be taken to be more active, where you're actually propping yourself up and lift the hands off the floor. That's quite an interesting way of practicing. Just as saying that, you don't have to do it, okay? Just so you're aware that it doesn't have to be so passive, okay? So we're lifting through or using the arms as props, but there's a sense of, so one of the advantages of coming on the fingertips is a sense of lifting up. Yeah, more active from the floor upwards. And then obviously you're taking more of the, if you take the hands off the floor, that's taking more effort into the spine itself. That's self-propping. Okay, from there, I want you to drop onto the buttocks. So we then, yes, like we're dropping back. And forward hand is a prop, back leg comes up. And we do as much picking up at the back foot and hooking as is possible. So one of the things we were talking about in the group, which I mean, I think it's going to be really great for me anyway, doing those groups now and again, was actually it was Ruth, who's not here, I think, right? Was saying she taught a class and there was this whole thing of getting off your mat and moving around the room to see what your students are doing. And it is a really important part of yoga teaching. And actually, it's a really important part of being a yoga student. I remember almost like a kind of addiction, right? When the first years of my practice of really wanting my teacher to come over and check that I was doing the pose right, you know. So that's a really interesting thing to explore. I think some yoga schools really emphasize there's a right way and a wrong way. Okay. So it's just worth observing that in your own practice. Obviously, it's more complicated for me to like step off my mat and visit everybody's house. That would be like really, I'd have to have some kind of magical powers to do that. But yeah, when in terms of teaching, the secret is to look around. At some point, look around. So it's just worth bearing in mind. And as a student, just see what is your relationship to your teacher, what you're expecting. Okay. Okay, from there, going to release this leg down. Swing round to straighten out the folded leg. Just going to get the bolster out of the way, coming into a dog pose now. So we're going to make this a little bit more deliberate. So grounding the palms, remembering the weight can come towards the outer edges of the hands. We teach this with the ears being in line with the upper arms, allowing the heels to drop, more active pose. And then from there coming into all fours. Okay, so I'm just going to change around here, direction. Okay, so I'd like to come into all fours. So this is now going to be a little gentle toning. So the tops of the feet you can have on the floor, the toes tucked under. We're going to come into a simple cat-cow. So as you exhale, you roll the pelvis back, look back. As you inhale, rolling the pelvis forwards and look forwards. So see if you can feel the movement in all of the sections of the spine. So it's not just the lower spine, there's also the mid-spine that we just emphasized working in the first pose, and also the neck spine. Moving between cat-cow with the breath. So as you exhale, drawing in, inhale, opposite extension. So this is like a mobilizing. It's also like an awareness practice. I think it can also be, you can introduce, certainly with the exhale, an awareness of toning in the abdominal area. Certainly towards the end of the movement, there's a sense of drawing the abdomen back towards the spine, which is related to Mula Bandha, which perhaps some point we can look at that in more detail. Okay, coming into a more neutral spine. And now bring your knees together, feet together. So it's like a narrower base at the back, but the hands still stay there broad as for support. So now, with an exhale, I want you to pick up one of your legs. I won't say which one, you just choose. And then inhale, extend that leg straight back, keeping the pelvis more or less level. Taking the gaze forwards, and then repeat. Exhale on the same side. Do it 5 times, so it's 2. Inhale, extend. Exhale, 3. Extend. Exhale, 4. Extend. Exhale, 5. Extend and hold the position there with the leg extended. And then I want you to pick up the opposite hand. So we come into what's called tiger. There's a sense of lengthening from the back foot to the forward hand. I quite like to turn the palm towards the center line, the medial line. If your balance is an issue, you could maybe tuck the toes under. Breathing there. Okay, and then releasing down. Knees coming together, maybe realigning your hands, positioning the hands. Going straight into the other side. So we exhale, draw up, inhale, extend back. And there can be a gentle sense of lengthening from the pubic bone through to the throat, the gaze. On the inhale. 2. Exhale, 3. Inhale, extend. 4. Extend. Sense of lengthening from the pubic bone through to the front of the body. On the 5th extension, we hold there. Reach forward with the forward hand, turning the palm to the medial line. So a sense of, as it were, strength through the whole length of the body. Good. Breathing there. And exhale, grounding the palms. Lifting the pelvis through to dog pose. Breathing. Okay, then dropping down onto, check. Yeah, to the belly. Okay. So we're going to come onto the front of the body. Yeah. So here, I would suggest separating the feet. You can do this with the feet together. That's fine. It's a bit more demanding, but
separating the feet. And then I want you to interlace the fingers around the back of the body with the thumb resting down towards the buttocks. Actively lengthening through both feet, through the front of the leg. And then we're going to come up into a static Bhujangasana. So the feet stay down. You can lift the arms up slightly, the hands slightly away from the buttocks and reach back to the backs of the hands. It's like you're pulling back. So this will activate the whole upper body area quite strongly. Breathing now. We'll do this a couple of times. So rest down. Take a pause there. If you want, releasing the hands all together, the arms. And then we're going to do again. Let's see if we can hold a little bit longer this time. So feet grounded. Interlace the fingers perhaps the other way. The other index finger on top. Reach back. And pause there. So I'm lifting my thumbs just a little bit away from the buttocks. I'm projecting through the backs of the hands quite strongly, drawing the elbows towards each other. Breathe there. So if you can hold a little bit longer, I just want to see what's going on. Okay. Yeah. Arms straightening. Yeah. Okay. And then release. Good. Release down, completely down. Release your arms. Okay. Now this is a really quirky movement, which I think we did do a few weeks ago, I reckon. So it's called like this, the salute. So this is one of these movements actually that comes from Gary Krafso, which is a Vinaya yoga teacher. So you want to bring the backs of the hands onto the sacrum, one hand on top of the other. So the arms are slightly active already. And we do this with the breath. Okay, so on an exhale, you reach your right hand, say forwards. And on an inhale, you like do a salute to the right, looking under. And then on the exhale, you take the hand back and release the forehead down. You take an in-breath. And then on the next exhale, you take the left hand forwards. Reaching forwards, inhale, salute to the left. Picking the elbow away from the floor. Exhale, release down. Inhale, relax. Exhale, the opposite hand comes forwards. Lifting away from the floor. Inhale, saluting to the right. Exhale, coming round and down. Inhale, pause. And then switch to the other side. So left arm comes forwards, extend. Inhale, do the salute. So you lift a little bit higher if you can, turning to the left. Exhale, release back. Head down. Inhale, pausing now. Following your own breath, now we'll do 3 more cycles. So right, back to the left again. In your own time, so there's 2 breaths with each movement. Exhaling, extend the arm. Inhale, the salute. Exhale, release the hand back. Inhale is like a resting moment, and then back to the other side. So again, this is like therapeutically working the upper back and mobilizing the shoulder. But because it's a movement, in some ways it's somehow softer, we could say. We're not holding statically in the way that we did the first pose. So it allows the body to flow, we could say. Less strenuous. So when you're ready, coming into stillness, I want you to move back. I've been enjoying doing my child's pose with the arms between the legs. And I'm going to rest there, so the forehead down or the chin down. Take a moment to tune in with the whole body. Okay, coming up and back to the front, being on the front of the body into prone. Now, this is a bit intense, I have to say, but it's worth it, I reckon. So both hands again onto the sacrum. The feet stay grounded. I wonder if it's worth even looking at the first one. So it's both arms at the same time. So as we exhale, we sweep the arms forwards, looking forwards. As we inhale, we pick up, look forwards more strongly, pick up, exhale, back down again. Inhale, we're resting actually on the floor, and I'll just do that again. So as you exhale, bringing both hands forwards. Inhale, we're picking ourselves up, opening the chest, looking forwards more strongly. Exhale, going back down to the floor. Inhale, pausing. So I just suggest you do 3 or 4 more, because that is a bit intense on the upper back, and it's in a sense it's demanding quite a bit from the upper body. So the inhale is definitely an exaggeration of the extension. The exhale, you can have the arms in line with the ears in the same way we do in the dog pose. Maybe 1 more. I came across this expression with a friend of mine on the retreat. Was saying there's this exercise system where you do to failure, repetitions until it doesn't happen anymore. But that's, I don't know, I guess that's sports science. Okay, releasing and relaxing. Down, and we're going to come back into all fours and taking a child's pose. And releasing there. Breathing. I'm going to hold this a little bit longer, breathing there. Well, it's holding, but it's letting go, right? Child's pose is surrendering pose. And then from there, coming out through to the belly again, onto the belly. I'd like us to come back to the first of that sequence. So interlacing the fingers behind you, but this time extend the arms full length. Thumbs resting on the buttocks, grounding the tops of the feet. Maybe let's try this time, bring your feet together. Okay, so the inner edges of the legs and feet are as much together as possible, but the feet stay down, and then lifting up again into the Shalabhasana. Much as is possible. So again, we're working into the upper back. So with the pelvis, now moving into the upper back. Breathing now, resting down for a moment. We'll repeat. Switch out the hands, the other index on top, backs of the hands away from you, palms towards your head and lifting up. Breathing now. Okay, looking forwards. The shoulder blades are moving towards each other. You can almost squeeze the shoulder blades in. And then release.
And really separate the feet a little bit, coming up into all fours. And I want you to get together as much, well, not too much, just enough to make a little pile of gear. So I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to put the bricks first. It really depends what you've got available. We've done this before as well. So this is like a passive shoulder hang. The elbows go on to the support. We'll do it twice. So the first, you separate your elbows a bit and then rest the forehead down. Guard against sagging too much in the belly area. So you can even roll the pelvis back a bit, retrovert the pelvis. You see what I mean? If you tip the pelvis forward, you can go into quite a deep lumbar curve, which, you know, is not necessarily a bad thing. But maybe we can keep the lumbar more neutral and then take the awareness into the upper back. Okay. So I'm doing this the first time with the forehead at the same height as the elbows. Breathing there. Taking awareness into the specific sensation. So what's this pose offering in terms of your physical experience? What's going on? Okay, and then to come out is a kind of two-way thing of lifting up and slightly swinging forwards. We'll just have a pause, kneeling position, looking forwards, resting the hands down into the lap. So we're going to approach this pose again. Oh, sorry, Deanna's coming. I've got Deanna coming in twice. That's exciting. So it is possible to be in several places.
My mind's running low, sorry.
Okay. Is everybody can still follow, right? Yeah? Okay, so the second approach is to allow the head to come through your, okay, and hang down. So it's a bit more like a head hang, head shoulder hang, okay? So go for it. Try that for as long as you can, okay? Gonna put down into silence, that's it. Okay. So breathing, so will be more intense if you let the head drop through the arms. If that's not okay, then we'll rest your forehead again onto the support. That's it. Great. So I'm doing this really as a kind of contrast with the strengthening toning work that we just did a little sequence there on the upper back. This is more of a passive stretching out of that area. Okay, so that personally I find that contrast quite satisfactory. On an inhale again, you're going to do that two-way action, partly lifting up, swinging forwards, and then we're going to move the gear out the way, forwards, and we're going to drop down onto our back for a completely different experience again. So we're going to do what's called stirrup pose. So the legs come up and we make the hands into stirrup shape and take hold of the inner legs. Not sure, the inner feet. So we're working into the inner legs, groins again. So this is where we started the session, working into the pelvis. Happy baby pose is more like, I suppose, taking hold of the big toes or the outer edges of the feet, like the baby playing with the feet, basically exploring. It's a really important like hip pelvis movement. So whatever, you know, if you prefer to take hold of the big toes, go for it. And then there's this question, you know, is my sacrum on the ground? Does it float up? Should I try and keep it down? So I'll let you work that out. Okay, I'm not sure there's a right answer, to be honest. Like grounding the sacrum actively is quite interesting as well for that area. So I'm deliberately moving the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, towards the floor rather than letting it float up. So both is possible. So what I wanted to try now was to extend one leg as fully as possible without tipping over to the side too much. This is something that Sadhata does really. He's got more flexibility in this direction. So the other side. Coming back to center, and then we can explore taking both legs to straight as much as that is going to be possible. Gosh, I've run out of space. I've got a wall here. That's it. So again, we're revisiting Upavastakonasana, which we did at the beginning of the session. But now we're on our backs. Again, you can explore, is it possible to bring the sacrum down? What does that mean? How does that feel in the body? Or it might be more an experience of the sacrum floating up. So we'll just have a look what's happening there. Okay. Breathing. Great. Okay. And then bending the knees, releasing. And I want you to gently hug with the head down, the shins toward the legs towards you, the thighs towards you. So we're flattening out the back of the body. Okay, so yeah, from here, I want you to bring the hands around the back of the head. We're going to build this up. So I wanted to do some strengthening work around the pelvis. Hip flexor again. So as we inhale, I want you to extend your right leg out parallel to the floor, floating off the floor. Exhale, bring the leg in, and then inhale up to the vertical. Exhale back towards you. Inhale parallel to the floor. Just do one side. A few cycles, so exhale, bringing in. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bringing in. Gathering in. Inhale, extend. And then bringing in, switching sides now. So on one hand, you're either going to the vertical or going to the horizontal. So as we inhale, either to the vertical or to the horizontal. As we exhale, we draw back into the center. Yep. Try to coordinate with your breathing. So as we exhale, gathering up. Inhale, extending. The leg a few times. Not forcing your body, so working gracefully, gently. with your body, and then come back to center for a moment. Come into semi-supine, resting the soles of the feet onto the floor, and release the arms. And then reposition. So we'll reposition the hands. We'll do this again, but with both legs together now. So this is definitely going to be more intense. If it's too intense, too strong on your back, particularly the lower back area, then don't do. So we'll start off by taking both legs to the vertical on the inhale, exhale, folding in, and then inhaling. See if you can take your legs out along the floor. That's really quite intense. Exhale, back to center. Inhale to the vertical. Exhale, folding into center. Inhale, projecting out. Exhale, back into center. So I'll just let you work with that at your own rhythm and the repetitions that are appropriate. See if we can keep the sacrum grounded as you extend out along the floor. Obviously, your weight is going to go more towards the tailbone, which is like, as it were, the lower end of the sacrum. When you're ready, dropping back into semi-supine. Okay. Releasing the hands. And then I want you to place your hands underneath your buttocks. Okay, so this is similar but different. So placing the hands under the buttock, well, it's more like under the edges of the sacrum is where I like to think. So actually, if you just look at the screen a moment, what I'm doing with my hands is I'm making like a diamond shape with the index and thumb, and I'm resting the sacrum into that space. Okay. So, and then we'll do the same thing. So as you exhale, legs in, inhale to the vertical, exhale into the center, inhale, extend out. Exhale, folding in. If you find that a bit intense on the thumbs, reposition. Coming back to resting for a moment. Release the hands, embrace now the shins, the thighs resting towards you. Now this is like kind of like a personal preference, but I'm going to make almost like very light fists with my hands. And I'm going to place the fists underneath in that same area. It's like the upper inner quadrant of the buttocks towards the sacrum. Yeah, so it's almost like a kind of pressure, kind of a knuckle pressure into the muscle fibers that run off the spine into the buttock area. Okay, so that, you know, you can do that as much as you like. It's just an area that I quite like to work, sort of massage. Okay, so we'll legs now to the vertical. So this is the legs parallel to the floor. Inhale, back up to the vertical. So it's like a shorter distance in a sense. Exhale down, inhale up. We'll do a few repetitions again, doing as much as appropriate. Inhale up, exhale down. So I'm using, in a sense, the hands as what, if you ever remember this expression, fulcrums. It's like a balancing point. But you could likewise do it without the hands there. The hands can be at your sides. Okay, and then we're going to rest again. This time come into semi-supine. So it's pretty intense, that sequence. Depending on how many repetitions you do of each phase, it will get more and more intense. Okay. Okay, so now just something very, bring one hand onto each knee, and as you exhale, you float the knees towards you. Inhale, float away. So it's Apanasana. So there might be a sense of that area being quite worked, even vulnerability, the lower spine, belly area, tenderness even. So as we exhale, the knees are coming towards us. Inhale, away. Eight or 10 times. Breathing. Okay, and then resting again towards semi-supine. Gosh, that time flies. So yeah, just have a pause there. Semi-supine. And then what we're going to do now, so we're going to come into a very light inverted pose. So we need to gather together some support to put underneath the pelvis. I mean, I'm doing this in a fairly sort of standard yoga class way, which is on 4 bricks. Ideally, I don't think cushions work with this because you want something that's a bit firmer, right? So you could use a bolster as well. So the bolster actually, or the cushions go underneath your sacrum, okay, underneath the buttock sacrum, and we're in the bridge, supported bridge. Okay. If you want to be a bit more active with the arms, then we of the bricks and extend down through the arms, opening the chest a little bit, broadening across the pectoral area. That's a more active version. Then we take one leg at a time up to the vertical. So we're coming up into like a support shoulder stand with Balita Karani. So in my classes down in Valencia, this is like such a regular pose. I think I did it pretty much at the end of every class. There's a way of bringing an inversion pose into the class at the end, which should have the effect of calming the body down. But depending on how active you are in the pose, you could say the active element is the more yang element, the more stimulating element. So if you are engaging your arms, corners the brick tower, and broadening the chest forward, that is a more stimulating pose. Or you might just be more quiet. Okay, so I'll let you decide. So you can just rest, be quiet as it were in the chest, and the heart area can be soft. The hands and arms can be fairly passive. Checking that your neck is long. Got my inner feet together. Taking 10 or 20 breaths here. the sense of, yeah, the legs, maybe they're slightly active, but at the same time, a sense of balancing the legs over the top of the hips. It's almost like an effortless being there. What you really don't want to do in this pose, I just did it, which is turn the head. One of those, I've had like 3 or 4 really classic injuries from yoga, and one of them I remember was turning the head in shoulder at like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. Not good. So like the rest, I was on a 2-week retreat, and it happened on like the 3rd day or something. So I had the whole rest of the retreat with this like neck pain, head locked forwards. Yeah, humiliating, I think is the word. That's like being sort of overzealous at 6:30 in the morning. I'm going to bring one foot down, the other foot comes down. So this version of shoulder stand is safer because we haven't got such an intense flexion in the neck. Lift your pelvis, release the pelvis down. Again, discard the gear to one side. And from there, we're going to roll to one side. We're going to come into meditation position. That's fine. Okay, so do, as it were, do that on the journey to the sitting position, like socks and all the rest of it. Okay. So we've just had, after buying Suryavana 5 years ago, we finally got a guy to fix the roof. The rain was pouring in. We had 2-week retreat with rain every day, all day long, which is so unusual for this part of Spain. Not completely unusual. So I got that sorted with somebody this week, but it's just started raining again. So I hope it doesn't wash away all of the work he's done. We'll see. So we're going to come up into supported seated position. So make yourself as comfortable as you can be, really. I have to say, I quite like to be able to rest the hands onto the lap or onto the thighs. Okay. So what I'm going to do is lead into a brief meditation practice. I mean, there's no rush, but I will sign out. And what I suggest you do, because it's already 1/4 past the hour, so hopefully you've got a few minutes just to do the transition between the practice and whatever else you've got to do. If you can, we're going to do a few minutes meditation, which I'll lead, and then do sit on for a little bit, and then lie down, as it were, in your own time. So just with lying down, a really interesting thing to do in terms of discipline and part of your practice is to set a timer, because I know just from my own experience that it can be really difficult to be still. And so one thing you can do is set a timer for like 6 minutes in Shavasana or something like that, or 8 minutes, and just do it till the end, whatever comes up. But we're now in meditation pose. So feeling now your body, hopefully somewhat more energized, stimulated, open, maybe even a sense of balance. Sensitivity. And in your own way, touching into these 5 aspects. So specific sensations will help to anchor your attention to sensations of pressure in the buttocks, maybe stretch in the inner thighs, contact with the cushions or blocks, whatever you're using. and a whole body awareness. The whole body from top to bottom, from the bottom to the top. Then tuning in with the heart. So again, we could come back to this question that we started the session. How am I? Or how are you? How am I? And being aware of this quality aspect of experience, which is change, transformation, movement, anitya, impermanence. So a sense of letting go, can't hold on. It's all going to change, or it's all changing. So we can let go. And then anchoring into your breath. Mindfulness of the breath. Mindful of your breath. And then we can move around those 5 aspects, following your own intuitive process. Again, coming back to specific sensations, the whole body, the heart center, that your experiences change, back to the breath. Whatever way or whatever aspect of your experience takes interest. One of the secrets of meditation practice is finding a way to get interested, stay interested in the exploration that we're beginning. And also a sense of looking for pleasure or ease, contentment within your experience. Okay, so from here, I'm going to leave it to you. So do feel free to carry on in meditation. Do feel free to lie down for a few minutes. Make sure you're going to be warm enough. And we'll see each other next week. So I'll be here next week. Salad will be here the following week. as we move into April. Thank you very much.